Looks like I got muted. Okay, I might start over. Thanks for joining us here today. My name is Sandra Crawford, Manager Microsoft Relationship Tier. We're pretty excited to introduce our TouchPoint Attendant. And any questions that come up during the session, please go ahead and type them into the chat window, and we'll answer them at the end. So now I'd like to introduce our main presenter here today, Mr. John Cray, who runs Product Management for Enghouse Interactive. Welcome, John.
Thanks, Sandra. Hi, everybody. Appreciate you giving us your valuable time today to learn about this exciting launch of our new TouchPoint Attendant product. So Sandra and I are both going to present to you today. Sandra, as she mentioned, runs our Microsoft relationship and our strategic partnerships, and I run the sort of product strategy for a lot of our communications products. So with that, we will dive in. So the key to this is it is a tool for receptionists, operators, attendants, whatever your choice of word is, for the person who's at the front line of the business, who takes calls and directs those calls to the right people within the organization to receive them. So, you know, it might be that those calls are transferred to an individual, to, you know, who's available in a department, to, you know, the best person who has a particular piece of knowledge, whoever that might be. The key is to have a tool that allows you to be efficient when those calls arrive, to have complete visibility into what's showing up, and then direct the calls in a very productive way to the right target within the enterprise. So a lot of businesses really want to differentiate this function, right? They want to be able to offer a personal touch, someone who can be friendly but also very empowered to be able to help the customer and then direct the call, you know, appropriately. There is a little bit of a gray area sometimes in some businesses between someone who might be acting as a customer service or frontline contact center agent versus someone who's actually acting as, say, an operator. And it kind of comes down to what's your primary job. If your primary job is to really try to deliver a customer experience, a customer service experience, then you might best be armed with a contact center application and an agent user interface to do all those functions. If your primary job is more as a call director, more as someone who's going to almost like a switchboard operator kind of function, but maybe a little bit higher value than that, and move calls to the right endpoint, then the receptionist or operator user interface might be the right approach. But the key is this gives you a choice. One of the key things about this particular product offering that we're talking about today is we've done quite a lot of collaboration with Microsoft in the design and development of this application. Enghouse is a strong Microsoft partner. We've been partnered with them on solutions for Skype for Business, its predecessor Link, even dating back 8-9 years to the old OCS days. We've been involved with Microsoft for a long, long time, and we've built up a relationship with them that now allows us to work directly with their engineering team and their product managers to make sure that we're leveraging the Skype for Business environment in an optimal way. And the way we've engineered this particular application is it works with literally any Skype for Business topology. So if you have Skype for Business on-premise or hosted by a partner, or Cloud PBX, what they call Skype for Business Online, the E5 cal with Office 365. Any of those configurations will work with this attendant console. And the reason we're able to do that, independent of Skype topology, is because we actually have built an integration through the Skype client itself. So the Skype for Business client has an SDK, an API, that allows us to control calls, access information, so we can see contacts and presence and other information, and be able to do all of that directly through the client. And since the client front ends the back end servers of Skype for Business, wherever those are located, we're able to access it independent of topology. So that's a very flexible configuration, and one that's extremely extremely easy to deploy. So the deployment model for this is you go to a website, you download the client, you install it, you bring it up, it connects automatically to your Skype for Business client, and it just starts working. You can immediately start taking calls on the application. So there's no real setup or configuration. There are a few configuration options in the console itself. We'll talk about those, but it's really more of a let's get it up and easy to use and ready to go kind of thing. This is what it looks like at the surface. So you can see some basic statistics there in the center of the screen. You can see there's a little place for the receptionist or operator to look people up and see who might be available in the enterprise and so on. The key here is it's a very clean-looking design, and it's extremely easy to learn and start using. We completely, when we were designing this, we were out looking at the way operators and receptionists work. We were talking to Microsoft folks about that. And the concept here is in a lot of businesses, the operator or receptionist has to be productive almost from the first call. In many businesses, they might use a temp for that function, and that person has to step in, start using the application without any real training. So there's not a lot of learning curve here. It just starts working, and it's pretty intuitive when calls start arriving and you start seeing the functions that are available on the desktop for handling those calls. It's pretty intuitive how to start using it in a very productive way. Another key aspect of the design of this, and we'll see this in a second when we get into a live demo, but another key aspect of the design is that it's almost a gamification style design. The goal there was to keep the attendant, receptionist, engaged with the screen, to keep them focused, their attention focused on the application. So those statistics that you see there is one aspect of that gamification style design. There are other aspects that have to do with color and animation. We'll see those when we dive into the demo. But engagement is important here, especially in a business where you might get a high volume of calls coming in, and you need this particular job function to be very productive and efficient. As always, when we build these products alongside Microsoft, we're building them so that we can be first to market, so that we can be certified, so that we can work with the various topologies and so on. So there's a path here, and we'll talk about that a little bit more in a second, but there's a path here to get this application certified with Microsoft. It's already been tested with the Microsoft topologies, and it's ready for release. And at the end of this month, when Microsoft Skype for Business Online releases its call queues and auto attendant functionality in the cloud, this will be generally available. So we're talking 2.5 weeks, and this will be available in the market. Okay, so with that, let's take a quick look at some key functions before I actually dive into the demo itself. So here you see this sort of center section of the screen, and when we see the demo, pay attention to this section here. Here's where the action is happening for that receptionist. Here's where they're focused on the functions that are available to them in real time to start handling that call and start looking people up in the enterprise. Here you can see they've got highlighted a little transfer button. All of these buttons have little function keys on them, and those are configurable. The concept here is that an operator receptionist needs to be extremely productive, so they don't always want to use the mouse and move the mouse pointer around to access these functions. So you can do everything in the application from the keyboard. And a lot of operators that are in high volume environments, that's what they want. They want to just use the keyboard to quickly process calls, send them on their way, and get on to the next call. So that's really, really important. Down here at the lower left, that's where, when we see in the demo, you'll see the calls stacking up when they come into queue. That's actually the name of the queue there, Wallerstein Sales. And you'll see that we use color very effectively to indicate where the attention of the receptionist should be. Over here are additional kind of added functions. So if you didn't want to do a cold transfer off to a destination, let's say you wanted to do a warm transfer or access some of these other functions, you get them based on this sort of little dotted menu here in the center section. And then here's where you start looking people up. And again, these could be people that have been popular transfer targets for this particular caller, or other departments that you can quickly look up and see presence, and so on. So those are the key areas to pay attention to as we're watching the demo in just a second. So let me pause the PowerPoint, and I will go to a bit of a pre-recorded demo here, and we'll play that and I'll talk us through it. So here you can see that screen. It's a very clean looking screen. Again, we have the statistics there in the center. We can see that 9 calls have been taken by this particular receptionist today, 5 for the pathology department, 4 for the family medicine department, and down there at the bottom we can see where what's happened to those calls, how many have been transferred successfully, handled successfully, and so on. So that's right there in the center. This is not visible when the operator is actually handling calls, but is visible when they complete a call. Over there on the little right section there, we can see this particular operator. Her name is Candace, by the way. You can see her name at the top. These are her favorite contacts. These are inherited from Skype for Business directly. Over here on the left, we'll see the calls coming in when we actually send a call into queue, and here is one coming into the family medicine queue. So we've got a call came into that queue. We can see it starts out as green. It's a fresh new call in the system. And as it ages, it changes color through yellow, orange, and red to indicate it requires attention. Candace can quickly answer that call. She takes it. It's live. And then we can see at that point, based on caller ID, that the call is from Brant. And based on that, we know a little bit about who Brant's recent or frequent people that he's contacted in the past have been, and we can see those on the right. I have access to this call control. I can put Brant on hold in case I need to go take another call or do something else. I can still see that queue visible, and then bring Brant back from hold. These recent transfers are the people Brant has transferred to or been transferred to in the recent past. A couple of doctors here, Dr. Tommy Melrose, Dr. Claretta Dickinson. And if I click on Tommy, I can transfer directly off to Tommy with a couple of clicks. And again, all of this is available from the keyboard as well. Once I transfer the call, we'll see that here. I'll click on that button, and that call will move down the right-hand side in an animated way, again using that green, yellow, red color coding to indicate urgency. In the event the call gets picked up by Dr. Melrose, boom, it disappears from the receptionist's point of view, and it's already in Dr. Melrose's jurisdiction. He's got the call, and so we don't have to worry about it anymore, and we can move on to the next call. Notice the statistics incremented. We're up to 10 now, and we're up to 5 for family medicine. So those keep track of kind of what's going on in real time as the receptionist or operator takes those calls. We're going to send another call into the system, this time for the pathology department, so you can see what happens when a call comes into a different department here in just a second. Before we do that, though, take a look at the different departments that I can look up. So in the event I want to, say, look up someone other than Dr. Melrose, I can with those department searches. Here's that call for pathology. I answer that call, and now I've got control of that call again in the center of the screen. This time the call is from Loretta Cray. I can, again, put her on hold, or I can look up, and we can see here that Loretta has recently also been a patient of Dr. Melrose. But in the event Dr. Melrose is busy, in this case he's in a call, I can look up the other pathologists and see if someone else might be available. Or in the event Dr. Melrose becomes available, and we can see he just went to green, I can say, okay, Loretta, hold on for 1 second, and I'll transfer the call off to Dr. Melrose. But let's say I want to check with Dr. Melrose first. So I can have control over other functions here. I can send Dr. Melrose an instant message, and on his side of the equation, it looks like a Skype for Business IM, and I can IM back and forth with him. I could send him an email telling him in advance what this call from Loretta is about, or telling him, for example, Loretta was interested in this. I saw you weren't available, so I just wanted to let you know she's interested in this and would like you to call her back. So I've got those one single-click access to functions without having to navigate out of this application and into another application to handle that. I also have, and you can see at the top here, access to a supervised transfer function. That's a warm transfer. It temporarily puts Loretta on hold and allows me to talk directly to Tommy Melrose, and you can see him there in the center. I'm talking to Tommy right now, telling him what the call is about before I connect him with Loretta. Now, let's say he tells me that, well, I can't take the call right now. I can actually cancel the call with Dr. Melrose, go back to the call with Loretta, and tell her, I'm sorry, Loretta, Dr. Melrose can't take your call right now. He'll call you back. So all of those kinds of scenarios and use cases are supported in the application. And again, the counts got incremented, and we're seeing those analytics count up. So again, that's that gamification style where we're keeping track of what the agent or operator has done through the day, and we can keep goals and targets on what those people are supposed to do, and then keep track of how they're doing against those goals. What happens if you get a high volume of calls? Well, let's see a couple of calls that stack up in queue. One for family medicine in this case, one for the pathology department. They start to stack up there on the lower left part of the screen, and again, they're changing colors. In this case, pathology went red first. It's the higher priority call. It's been in the system the longest. I can actually cherry pick. I can go in and pick which call I want to answer first by clicking on it and answering it. And now I've taken that call, that queued call, ahead of the other. I quickly transfer that off. Now I take the next call from Loretta. I transfer that off, and I'm very productive. I've got multiple things going on in the system at once. And in the case of the operator that has, a lot of volume, a lot of busyness in the business, I can just keep the process moving. Those calls move off the right-hand side, and so on. In the case where a call gets transferred off but it doesn't get picked up by a destination, we cover that case as well. So let's say we try to transfer the call off, nothing happens. It will time out ringing and be pulled back automatically to the receptionist to find someone else to send the call to. So that's all supported by the application because, again, we have complete visibility into that right-hand side. If it disappears from the right and reappears in the receptionist's viewpoint, then that means the receptionist has to keep going, has to keep working on that caller. If it disappears and doesn't reappear, it means that it was successfully transferred off. There are other scenarios too. We can transfer the call directly to voicemail, for example. So we can go directly to a person's voicemail box and so on. And there are configuration options here to allow the receptionist to say, I prefer cold transfers over warm transfers. That should be my primary transfer type. And things like that that just allow you to tweak how the operator works, how the receptionist works as he or she is moving calls around the business. So hopefully that's a pretty good picture. It ties directly to Skype for Business from a contacts perspective, from a presence perspective, and so on. Here we see I'll just show you real quickly what happens when a call actually doesn't get picked up by the destination. We'll go here and we can see if we transfer this off, it gets pulled back right away because that person literally was completely unavailable. So, if the receptionist makes a mistake, transfers to someone whose presence is unavailable, that the system auto-corrects for that mistake and just keeps going. So there's a lot of value in the application from a productivity and an efficiency perspective. It just keeps the process moving and keeps things being handled at a very high productivity rate and keeps that agent constantly engaged with the screen through this very colorful, very animated look and feel. Okay, so that's the application. So with that, I want to talk briefly about what do we do to actually get a copy of this application and how do we start positioning that for sale. So let's talk about that. I'll transfer control back to Sandra for that part.
Great. Thanks, John. So about now, I'm sure everybody's wondering how you get your hands on TouchPoint Attendant. Your customers are going to love it, but it is super, super simple. You're going to get it directly from the Enghouse Interactive website. We're showing the direct link here up at the top of the screen, as well as a screenshot with a call out showing where to click, which is that little button called download a free trial. So don't worry about scrambling to write this link down. We will be sending it out after the call with the recording, and it's also super easy to find on the website. Next slide. So once you've clicked on that download trial button, you'll be asked to fill out a short form with your contact information. So there's two tabs there, one for customers and one for partners. And if a customer fills out the form, we will be contacting them for their partner information. So don't be worried about, go ahead and you can direct your customers to the site to go ahead and download the software, because we're not going to sell directly to them. We will be contacting them for the partner information. And if you select you're ready to purchase the product, then as part of the procurement process, there will be an automated email sent out to you asking for the PO, and then someone from Enghouse will contact you. Next slide. So once you submit that form, you're going to reach this thank you page, and there you'll have the link to download the software. And also on this page, just wanted to point this out so you don't just download it and forget we got some other cool stuff here. There's a help section with some FAQs, a link to a demo video, installation document, and also a quick reference guide. Very nice little guide there. Next slide. Now, if the product's never been licensed, your customer will be offered a 30-day free trial period. The free trial will give them access to full functionality of the software for those 30 days. There'll be a banner at the top bar of TouchPoint Attendant alerting how much time is left in the trial period. So you guys probably saw that on the demonstration that John just did. And just lets them know, and also has a daily pop-up reminder how much time they've got left. Now, when the product exhausts the trial period, the customer will be invited to provide a valid product key. So basically, we're going to ask you to purchase it at that point, but they will have the first 30 days at no cost. And if that's not done, then the product won't work anymore, and their only option will be to exit at that point. Next slide. The licenses are subscription only. They are purchased in advance for 12 months at a time. So you can buy 2 years or 3 years at a time if you want. And the cost is just $60 a month. Also, if you purchase in bulk, meaning 10 or more at a time, you'll get a 10% discount. Now that's 10 or more per customer will earn you that bulk buy price. And next slide. I'm going to turn things back over to John now for a quick recap and brief plug on Enghouse and our Microsoft relationship before we wrap up and take any questions. So be thinking about your questions and go ahead and start typing them into that chat window, please. John?
Thanks, Sandra. So we're not going to take the full hour with you today, of course. We wanted to give you a very brief update on this, some sort of key points just to recap what we've seen. I mean, again, this has been developed in collaboration with Microsoft. The future of this application will also be in collaboration with Microsoft. Will be, of course, this is the initial version of this client-only application. We'll be continuing to evolve functionality in this. An example of this will have more metrics and more statistics available, things like that, more call control functions, more directory capabilities, and so on built into the product over time. But we wanted to make sure that it worked with the cloud PBX day one, and that is what it's been engineered to do. So, because we've built it with the architecture and integrations that we have, it is capable of working with the cloud PBX basically today. And as soon as that cloud PBX introduces call queues and auto attendant, which again is coming, it's right now targeted, I believe, for March 24th, then this product will inherit that functionality and work with that as well. And again, just to emphasize, there is absolutely no server required for this application. It runs completely on the desktop. It is a client application. It doesn't run in a browser, but it does get installed on the desktop. But it is completely autonomous in that it doesn't require any servers from Enghouse, and it doesn't require any equipment on premise from Skype if you're going to use the Cloud PBX or hosted Skype option. It works with every topology you can imagine. As long as the client works, this will work. So, of course, the client has to work in order to even take calls on the Skype system. And I can't emphasize enough, it is so easy to install and use. I mean, Sandra was talking about this trial. Literally, when I put the demo together for this, I went into that website that you just saw on the screen. I literally downloaded the trial and installed it, brought it up. It automatically connected to my Skype client, and I just started using it. It is literally that easy to install and use. Even if you're not acting as an operator, you can use this just to take calls in Skype for Business if you like the look and feel of the UI, and you want to be able to, if you're someone who does a lot of transfers or lookups or bringing people into conversations, you can use the application to do that. It's dead easy to just get running and start using. It does have those small configuration options we were talking about, like, for example, the option to pick whether you like cold or warm transfers as your primary mechanism of transfer. You always have access to both. But that's just something. We have a default of cold transfers there, and you can just start using it without any configuration at all. Now, if you're going to use the Skype Cloud PBX, there are, of course, some steps to set up auto attendant and call queues in the Cloud PBX. You can use the application without auto attendant and call queues in the event you just want every call to go to an operator. But if you want to use those features in those how-to documents that Sandra showed us on the website, we've actually outlined how to set up auto attendant and call queues as well. So we took the information from the Microsoft documentation and replicated it in our own documentation to make sure it was sort of in one place, to make it really, really easy to find how to get this whole thing set up soup to nuts. So that's all all supported in the application. And then Sandra talked about the 30-day trial and then purchasing a license from there. Just real briefly, I mean, those of you who are our partners, been working with us for many years, hopefully you're aware we've been in this business of managing communications for customers for well over 20 years now. We've got our communications center framework, which works with a variety of different PBXs, and we continue to support an attendant console for other PBXs as well. Those other PBXs, however, do require our server architecture and our queuing and routing to be set up for those operators. But we do have a feature-rich operator console using the same TouchPoint look and feel for other PBXs as well. This client-only version, it only works today with Skype for Business. So in terms of a serverless client-only version, the only PBX we support today is Skype for Business. But we've been doing this for a long time. We have literally hundreds of thousands of consoles installed around the world. There are lots of people using our console and attendant applications. We're very familiar with the workflow of the operator and receptionist, and we've designed this to really maximize productivity for those folks. Key thing here is that Microsoft themselves do not have these applications. Microsoft does not have an attendant console. Microsoft does not have a contact center. They don't have their own reporting capabilities or call recording capabilities. So they rely on their partners to provide these applications. And that's what we do. We fill in these white spaces for Microsoft. We enable these functions to be provided across the different topologies of Skype for Business. And that's something that we're very, very strongly focused on, being the best partner for Microsoft and, of course, Microsoft's resellers and systems integrators that we can be by filling in these white spaces with the best products in the market. And that's really it. Down here at the bottom of the screen, you can see an email address. If you guys have any questions you don't think of right now, you'd like to send us a question later, feel free to use that email address. and shoot us whatever questions you can think of. And I'd encourage you to go to that website Sandra showed us and go download a copy of this thing, try it out, see what you think, and give us your feedback.
You ready for questions, John?
All set.
Okay. The first question is, we are a reseller. Is there reseller pricing? And I'll go ahead and take that one if you don't mind, John. There is, whatever your normal partner discount is what you'll get off of this product. So that question came from Alex. Alex, give us a call, send a note over to the email address here. If you know who your rep is here at Enghouse, give them a call and they can certainly go over some stuff. Next question. When you said annual, does that mean the customer pays annually? Yes, that is correct. Let's see, next one. If I send a customer to the download page, how do you know the customer came from us? I'll take that one too, John. That one came from Sean. Sean, if the customer goes on there, we will be contacting them and asking who their partner is. And if you direct them, you can even say for them to go ahead, they could even fill out the partner side of it because it's partner and customer information in one place. So just let us know how you want to work that out. So we're just doing it to be flexible that way. Let's see here. So Kim is asking, Skype for Business client is required to run with this attendant console.
Yes, it is. So it runs kind of underneath the covers, so you're not really using the client to perform any actions, but it is required to be running on the desktop. We don't suppress the user interface. It's still available for use because one of the decisions we made was that the operator receptionist is still a part of the business, so they still might want to do things that are available in the Skype client, like schedule a conference or something, that are not available in the operator console. So we did want to sort of leave the client available and leverage its functionality for the console. So the simple answer, yep, it is required to run.
Cool. Here's another one that I'll go ahead and take. The question is the partner version also a 30-day trial? So yes, it is. So you'll install the same software. It comes with a 30-day trial. However, contact us, and for our partners, we will let you have an extended full license key. So we want you guys playing with this. We want you showing it off, demoing. So yes, certainly give us a call, and we will extend your license. Next question, John. Let's see. Since this is installed directly on each user's workstation, how does a customer centrally manage the suite itself as well as apply version controls?
Right. So, if you're just using the client-only console application, it's not really a suite. It's just a standalone application. If you're using the console in cooperation with the other services that, say, the communication center product provides, like Contact Center, then you're actually not using this client-only application. You're using the full client-server operator console application that runs off those servers. They are two different products. They look and feel very similar, and their functionality is very similar. There are a few additional features in the full server version of the console that are not in this client version, simply because as a server-based application, we would have more power and control, and we can actually deliver more functionality to the desktop. Now, in terms of upgrades, if you're using the full server-based version, it auto-updates. So whenever the server has a new version of the TouchPoint Attendant available, it will tell you about it, and with a single click, allow you to auto-update it. So in that way, you, starting from the server and going out to the desktop, can manage version control. In the case of the client-only console, we have not yet built a scheduled version control auto-update process. You can install from the website any new version. So if there was a new version available, you can go out to the website to get that new version, and it will automatically install over the top of the old version and just keep running. But it doesn't auto-update today. That is something planned for the next release of this.
Let's see, here's one. Are there any limitations, including feature restrictions, that exist when operating in a hybrid environment where some agents are in the cloud and others are hosted on-prem?
There are not with the client-only version. So in contact centers, there generally are some limitations that come out of the hybrid architecture. But since this application simply runs on the basis of what the client can see and control, anything the client can do, this can do, within the limits, of course, what an attendant can do. So I know that was a little convoluted. Let me explain. So basically, if you can see a contact, if that contact is in a hybrid environment, federated, let's say, so it's a contact that's on an external Skype system in another business, but federated with yours, or federated between an on-premise or hosted instance of Skype and a cloud PBX, federation makes that all very seamless, so I can see those contacts and I can see their presence. So since the client can see them, so can the attendant. And the attendant can do all of those same functions to take calls, see their visibility, look people up, by department or individual, see their presence, and move them off to those individuals. There are no limitations. So that's the nice thing about this architecture, is since it's independent of topology, it works with all those hybrid and federated configurations as well.
Next question. Does the product support drag and drop transfer?
So it supports single-click or keyboard transfer. It doesn't support a drag and drop paradigm. Now, we debated that. We talked about the design of this. And again, because a lot of operators want to operate from the keyboard, not from the mouse, we emphasized single-click keyboard controls over drag and drop kinds of user experience paradigms. So we kind of moved to that. It also follows the design of the TouchPoint agent client in the communication center, contact center application, which is a hover and control paradigm. So you hover over an object like a person and you see the functions you can do with that person. This is that same kind of paradigm. It's just that we also introduced all the keyboard controls as well. So drag and drop, it turns out, is actually not a very productive way for people to work. They have to locate the originating object and then locate the destination and move one to the other. It's actually not nearly as efficient as the paradigm we chose to allow keyboard controls.
That makes sense. Let's see here. Last question. All right, everyone, there's one question left, so if you have any more, go ahead and type them in. John, what happens if if we have lots of favorites? Does the console start to tile the contacts? And then part two to that, can I group contacts?
So I'll start with the second part first. The groups are identical to what you have configured in your Skype client. So you know that you have the capability to group contacts there, and you can create as many groups as you like. And those groups can be, in the case of an attendant, possibly the departments that they might commonly transfer calls to, and so on. In the case where the list grows long, we display the highest contacts first, typically the ones that where you've done the most, paid the most attention to or had the most activity with at the top of the list, and then the list is scrollable. So if you go down to the bottom of the list, you then continue to scroll through the list. So our best practice recommendation is, yes, use groupings because it keeps those lists from growing sort of infinitely long. The other thing is use searches well is another kind of best practice here, to be able to guide the attendant to be able to be as precise in their search as possible. The searches are Google-style searches, so they will look for the person's name, the name of the department, the name of anything that's visible in the person's directory information. And if the more precise they can be with the search, the smaller the results will be and the easier it will be to navigate. So there's kind of a couple of best practices here. Keep groups manageable and use detailed searches. But beyond that, the lists do grow and are scrollable from there.
Perfect. We did get one more question. It is, does TouchPoint Attendant Console support Call Park?
So it depends which topology of Skype we're talking about. So for all topologies except Cloud PBX, it does. So if you are talking about working with an on-premise version of Skype, again, it could be just this client-only version, but connected through the client to an on-premise version, which uses something called response groups for queuing. You can park calls off to destinations. You see them going down the right-hand side of the screen there like we saw, but in a park state, which visibly looks different than a transfer state. And then in the event the operator wants to pull the call back, they can do so, or they can IM or warm call the destination and tell them to pick up the parked call, or however they'd want to handle it. It's all possible with that version. The Cloud PBX, Skype for Business Online, does not yet support the park function, flat out. It just doesn't even have it as part of the Cloud PBX yet. So when that function is made available and we can get to it through the APIs, it will be in this product, but it's not yet supported by the Cloud PBX.
All right. Oh, and you got a big thank you on that too. That was good. Okay, I don't see any more questions. Those were really good questions, though. We had 11 questions. I think we can wrap it up, John.
Okay. Well, thanks very much, guys. Again, appreciate your valuable time. I just play with it. See what you think, and let us know. I'm interested in your feedback, and looking forward to working together on this.
Thank you, John. And thanks, everyone. And have a great rest of your day. The recordings will be coming out. Probably won't come out till potentially sometime tomorrow. Give us a call. Let us know if you have any questions. Thanks, everyone.